I wake up to being thrown on my bedroom floor face down at gunpoint.
They thought you were going to be shooting your way out of this and you were dead asleep.
Some of them say FBI, just like the movies, and others say Department of Insurance. The DOI had fully automatic rifles.
Dude.
I was only 23 years old, and the life I had built just fell apart.
Cowboy by day, pilot by night, TikTok aficionado, insurance agent extraordinaire, Grant Weber, good to have you here.
Brian, it's really good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Grant, you and I met at a restaurant years ago, and I said, how'd you get into the industry? I was not prepared for the story of you and everything that went into that. Go for it. Tell us your story.
Boy, I'm going to try and be concise about that again. It's a heavy story, and not many people start out their life or their career. They come out of college or anything saying, I want to be in insurance. And with what I went through, there's a lot of people further that I think would have dropped out of that. But I was running a hauling business through high school. I had a friend that was working with me. We had a crew of guys, and we were just picking up construction debris and hauling it away for cheaper than the next guy. When my father convinced me to join the insurance industry. And so I was a senior in high school, and I had gotten my P&C license and started the P&C side of his company. He had a life and health agency that he had started in 1991. So that was all the way back in 2003 when I joined him. In 2005, he had convinced me to get my life health license. Unknown to me at that time, his license was suspended. So in hindsight, and with what I know now, the encouragement to get my life health license and join him on that side of the industry was more a manipulation to get to use my license because he had lost his. And that didn't get really partially uncovered for me until 2009, when some chargeback notices that he had been intercepting finally came through to me. So I had learned that he was filling out applications because the way that the industry was prior to the financial collapse in 2009, you could submit a life insurance application and get a 50% commission advancement on that business prior to it closing, just for the fact you were submitting the application. And we were in a very lucrative side of the industry at the time that was premium finance life insurance. And so the bank would fund the premium, and average commissions were $100,000 to $250,000 a policy. So you can imagine 50% was just a big chunk of change at the time. So I started receiving these chargeback notices to applications that I had never completed. And when I confronted my father, he very, sorry, I get a little choked up about this stuff still. So you guys are going to get to see some, I guess, vulnerability in this. But he very plainly just looked at me dead in the eyes and said, "That's business. File bankruptcy." So I went into survival mode, coinciding with the financial collapse. I was losing my house, lost the girlfriend I had at the time. The life I had built, I was only 23 years old, and the life I had built and I thought that I was going to live just fell apart. I dissolved that partnership, was losing my house, and was even homeless for a month. Living out of my truck with my German Shepherd, George, and found a place to live in Oakley, California, Brentwood, Northern California. And the decision to go to that location, I was actually at the time thinking, as I was spending the last night in my house with the moving truck and deciding where I was going to go because I didn't have a home or anywhere to go to, I was thinking, I'm going to run to Montana. I'm going to go, it's the furthest away place I could have thought of to run. And a Taekwondo master that I had since I was a little guy called me that morning. I mean, an hour before I was going to get in the truck and go to Montana. And he says, "Grant, I couldn't sleep last night. God kept telling me you need a job." And he goes, "I'm opening a new Taekwondo studio. Will you come to Antioch and run it for me?" So that's what brought me back down to Northern California. And I started running that Taekwondo studio. And as I mentioned, I was homeless for a month during that period until I could find a place to live. So I was just sleeping in my truck, and I had a 110-pound German Shepherd with me. Found a place to live, and just as I started feeling established again, there started to be a routine within my life, which be about 3 months after I got into the place that I was renting. I wake up to being thrown on my bedroom floor face down at gunpoint. And I'm trying to put together what's happening. I know I live close to Antioch, but these guys don't seem like gangsters. They sound like law enforcement. And when I look around, look back behind my shoulder, sure enough, people in bulletproof vests. Some of them say FBI, just like the movies, and others say DOI. And I thought, DOI, what? Department of Insurance. Okay. The DOI had fully automatic rifles.
Dude.
Fully armed and sworn law division. And they had a no-knock warrant because of firearm registry laws and all the public records. They had a no-knock warrant to come in and kick in the front door because they had thought, and I mean, I don't blame them for this. They're like, well, he owns guns. He could shoot back, and he's a pilot. He's a flight risk, so let's surprise him. And I was surprised.
Dude, so they thought you were going to be shooting your way out of this, and you were dead asleep?
I was dead asleep, yeah, 6 in the morning.
Dang.
So I ended up getting handcuffed to my kitchen table for probably 10 hours that day.
Wow.
I'm in my underwear. They wouldn't let me dress. They didn't want me going back in the room because, again, they knew I owned firearms. I wasn't going to shoot my way out, but they don't know that. So I understand for their safety. So I'm in my underwear all day, and I'm being interrogated. And it was at that point I realized, because I learned things the hard way, that my father's crimes had gone a lot further than just beyond using my license. So I took the position of, well, you guys know a lot, so why don't you just tell me what you think you know, and maybe I can fill in some details with what I know. They took my computer equipment, they took my files, they ransacked everything and unhandcuffed me and said they'll be in touch.
So you got to stay at your house?
I got to stay at my house.
Oh my God.
I was never arrested. They did let me know that at the time, and what was terrifying, I'm 23 years old, 24 years old at this point, that with what they were going for as far as charges and what the DA was considering, I would be facing up to 26 years in federal prison. And they were trying to sort out who done what, who was responsible for what.
Whoa.
So at that point in my mind, that was pretty life-ending. I mean, boom, everything I knew, the house I had, the girlfriend I had, the career, the future I had, all of that coinciding with the financial collapse, the collapse of the premium finance life insurance portion of the industry, the division of the partnership for my father as I'm trying to regrow now an insurance agency as a sole proprietor, to then be handcuffed to my table by the FBI and the Department of Insurance. In a flash, I was at rock bottom.
Whoa.
And it was a very dark time in my life. I was suicidal. I drank heavily just to kill the emotions. Popped Vicodin just to go to bed at night. And then would wake up and slam 2 pots of coffee just to go back to work every day, 7 days a week. Not sure if I was going to go to prison or not at the time. I kept working. That was what I went to. Looking back, I can say there's healthy addicts and then there's unhealthy addicts. Unhealthy, you have people that resort to drugs and alcoholism and things like that to distance or distract their mind from the stresses and whatever's going on in their life. And in depending on what you want to call it, if it's healthy or not. There's the other kind of addict that's a workaholic. And I worked my way into workaholism to distract from that. But it was, at the time, it was, I'm either going to get through this, and if I'm not working, I'm still going to be poor. I'm still going to be struggling if I don't end up going to jail. Or they're going to take me to jail any day now, and the work's going to be for nothing. But I might as well work, because what else am I going to do? So I just kept working. And a year criminal defense, they found me as a victim, and I was never prosecuted. I was never charged with anything. And I get a call that I was allowed to keep my insurance license, but the Department of Insurance would be watching me. And they certainly did for a number of years. They'd come in and they'd regular checkups, just drop in, come knock on my door. How's it going? Can we audit your files? For up to 3 years. After that, once you get absolved of things criminally, the civil litigation starts. And so then I had a year following that of civil litigation from the other victims of my father's crimes that were coming after me, because he had gone to prison, and I don't blame them either, because they were just looking for a way to recover their life savings and everything that they had lost. But that was a legal burden. That was a legal expense. And so the only result I had to that, and also the carriers that were still pursuing me for what amounted to around $1.2 million that he had embezzled in my name, was a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. So Chapter 7 bankruptcy in 2011, discharged in 2012, and my life started over again. And that is how I got my start in the insurance industry.
My man, that is powerful. As you went, there's a lot of dark days there.
Yeah.
But as you went through there, what are the seasons of light, and who are the people you look back on positively? I mean, that made a difference.
There's something interesting that happens when you hit rock bottom, and you have a choice, and you can stay there, and you can wallow in self-pity, and you can start blaming everybody and play the victim card, or you can look at the opportunities and, as you mentioned, there's seasons of light, and then there's people that step in and reach out for a hand up. One of those people before all of this came crashing down was that Taekwondo master who called me and said, "Hey, God told me you needed a job." That gave me the income to get by and find a place to rent and start getting on my feet. I then had my own mom. I had a very kind of estranged relationship with her because of the abusive nature of my dad in their relationship. They had divorced a decade and a half before this, but because I had gone into business with him, we didn't communicate very often. I think it had been almost 2 years since her and I had really even had a conversation. And following this, I hadn't even reached out to her. I was pretty well alone. I was, as I mentioned, drinking and suicidal. And she had called me one day, and the timing of this was really amazing, because after all this goes down, on top of all of it, I get an eviction notice from a bank because my landlord was not paying the mortgage with the rent that I was paying him. And so he's getting foreclosed on, and now I'm getting evicted again within 6 months of just being homeless and having found a place to live. And so I'm really at rock bottom. And my mom calls me and says, "I just want to see how you're doing. The universe told me you need a place to live." I'm like, okay. She goes, "I have a little bit of money. I'd like to help you find a place to live." And, so there's all these opportunities that, call it coincidence, call it divine appointment. You start seeing things move in your life, and you're not in any position to refuse a handout at that point. One of the other people that was a real light in all of this was actually the lead investigator at the Department of Insurance. Her name was Kristen Schreiber, and she put her arm around me and kind of helped guide me through this. She was investigating me, so what a precarious situation, because I want to be honest with her and I want to tell her everything, but I also know that this is a person that could very well put me in jail.
Right.
So where do you go with that? But I kept in touch with her for years and years and years after all of this until she retired.
Right.
But she was a huge support in this and recognized that she was the one that filled into her report that I was a victim, and was the key person in making sure that I wasn't prosecuted and didn't go to jail.
Wow.
So, and she was one of the people that was standing over me as I was handcuffed to my table all day being interrogated.
Oh, so she was there at the initial
She was
thing.
there, yeah.
Gosh.
She was one of them that came through the door.
So mid-20s, life starts picking back up a little bit?
Life starts picking back up, yeah. I ended up moving into a rundown house, and let me take a step back. There's so much to the story. Just following, learning the gravity of the investigation that I was under and being threatened with 26 years in federal prison, I had a pretty pivotal point, a reset in that. And as I mentioned, I was at rock bottom. There was a night following teaching Taekwondo that I'm sitting in my truck in that parking lot, and I had decided I was going to kill myself. And 23, 24 years old, threatened with 26 years in prison. It's a lifetime. And so I sat there and I had my .38 to my head and I was going to pull the trigger. And my dog George popped up in the back seat. And he's another point of light in this story, because what was going through my mind back then and what might seem silly to some people is I stopped because I knew that if I ended my life, his life would end. Nobody would take care of him. He was going to get euthanized. And I didn't want the end of me to be the end of him. And so I put the firearm down. And I continued. So George was my buddy through all of this, and really that rock, because he was my point of I'm going to continue so I can keep taking care of him. And it was me and him together, because through all of this and through this devastation and being at rock bottom, and I only had, maybe $10,000 of income that year I could count on. My diet was a can of beans a day for 2 years. Vance and Hines pork and beans, 78 cents a can. I could afford, $25 would buy me 30 cans for the month.
Wow.
And my other $25 would get a 50-pound bag of dog food for George. And that was my grocery budget, was $50 a month.
Wow.
George ended up living a very long and full life to 14 and a half years. And my wife that I met later following all of this, and my 2 kids that have come from that marriage, all 3 of them got to know George. He passed away at 14 and a half and 22. So, which is the end of that, I guess the conclusion to that story. But in all of this, there is light. You got to keep going through it. You got to look for the right people that come in and want to help out, and find what lessons there are to learn in all of this. It led me to a fixer-upper home in Lathrop, California. Had a collapsed roof, had a collapsed foundation, no working plumbing. But my goodness, I had a house. I had a consistent roof over my head, even though it was partially collapsed. And God really had a sense of humor, because in all of this, I wasn't a believer before any of this. But there were these little signs along the way. And I ended up in this home that was a fixer-upper with about 15 churches between me and the Home Depot. And so this entire process of everything I was brought through led me one day to walking into the first church I'd ever walked into in my life.
Wow.
And there was this big guy standing there, face tattoos, neck tattoos, looked like he'd just come out of prison. Scared the life out of me. I was already scared because I'd never been in a church. They're going to cast stones at me. They're going to burn me at the stake. Something's going to happen. But I've already been through a lot, so let me just see what this is about. And this guy stops me and he blocks me from going into the door. He's 6'2" and 300 pounds, and there's no way I'm getting around him. I'm 145 soaking wet, my boots on at that point. And he says, "What brought you here?" I don't know. And he says, "No, I'm asking you, what brought you here?" And I said, "Well, there's people in the parking lot, and I thought I'd just come check it out." finger that's like probably the size of my hand. He's like, hits me in the chest with his finger. He's like, no, right in the heart. He goes, Jesus brought you here. And he picks me up and picks me off the ground. and he goes, welcome, brother. And I met a lot of great people that day. I'm still so destitute. I'm still so run down. I probably smell like alcohol, honestly, because I'm still going through all of this. This is the point between, this is just after getting absolved of the criminal stuff, and now I'm going through the civil stuff. So I'm not even through that yet. I'm not even at the point of filing bankruptcy. And I'm still on a can of beans a day. I can't afford groceries. I'm even budgeting the gas money just to go to that church. And this group of people are like, hey, we're going to go to Chipotle after. You want to join us? And I was like, no, I can't do it. It's okay. I'm going to go home. Thanks. And somebody out of that recognized that it wasn't that I didn't want to. It was that I couldn't afford to. And he goes, no, man, I gotcha. He treated me to some chips and guacamole. Best chips and guacamole I'd ever had. Probably, it was the first thing I had besides beans in like a year and a half.
Dude.
So there was a lot of good people that stepped in, reached out, showed me grace, showed me kindness, kept me going. The Taekwondo master who said, hey, I got a job for you. My mom who called, who's not a believer, but said, hey, the universe said you need a place to live. That I put me on a good path. And when I started recognizing that I was doing things wrong, I was making bad decisions, I was being self-destructive, and I started doing things differently and putting others ahead of myself. My life really changed, and I accepted God into my life. And that I saw a big shift at that point as well, that as odd as that sounds, things started falling in place for me business-wise. The right people, more people came in. I suddenly had people that, with the business I had built through all of this, in a drunken and Vicodin high kind of stupor, when I cold turkey stopped that and looked back and said, oh my gosh, there was a book of business that I had built that I was now supporting myself off of. And I had the ability to hire a person to help me. And so I had quit drinking and the other stuff, just cold turkey.
Wow.
And clarity came in, and I was able to start hiring people, and the right people just started falling into place. And I really feel like I had to find rock bottom. I had to be put at rock bottom for just a big reset in my life.
Wow.
At that point.
Well, Grant, if someone were to meet you off the street right now, they'd say, lovely family. You've got dogs, you've got a great property, you've got horses, you've got an airplane, for heaven's sake. So there's a huge danger in, one of the beautiful things about life is people hitting rock bottom says, I need God. But the danger is you could be the rich young ruler saying, I don't really need that. I mean, what does the Bible say? It says, it's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. So sitting in that car was an experience your life needed. I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, and you've said, what if my family had been really solid? What would have happened to my life, my career? And I'm like, no, I think what you went through is what made you, and True Summit and your whole life, what it is today. It is, and I wouldn't want to ever go through it again. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemies. But you're right. You end up in a place or with a sense of complacency when everything's given to you, when everything comes easily. Having had the house, having had the sports car and all of that prior to hitting rock bottom, there wasn't really an appreciation for all of that because it came so easily. Having had all that stripped away through different means, a father that had some underlying personality disorders that caused him to behave in that way. Right.
And I want to say in that way too, the question I get following that is, what's the relationship like with my father now? I've forgiven him. there's no debt I can hold over his head that he can repay. So there's no sense in me holding that debt over his head because it just traps us both. There's boundaries, absolutely. You learn from the past, and you use discernment going forward.
Right.
But that's the best thing that I could do in that sense, was forgive him for both he and I, so that we could both move forward with our lives.
Dude, it's so healthy. That is, people need that, because people don't forgive very easily.
They do. And, but back to your point, hardship will, it will make you if you don't allow it to break you. And there's a lot of people that go through hardship and they will use that as an excuse to not try again, to not grow, to not trust. But if you can learn from the hardship and improve, reset, you'll be better, you'll be stronger. And the course I was on and where the business was at, it was very fragile at the time. That moment in my truck where I decided to continue my life for my dog, George. It's a great dog. I had no idea the plan that God had in store for my business, for my family. The family didn't exist at that point. I met my wife in 2013. And we have 2 beautiful kids now. We have as you mentioned, we have a ranch, we have horses, we raise cattle. I have, going from a time where I was terrified and very insecure about my own ability to even support myself and feed myself. True Summit is now a company of 23 people, 23 employees, all supporting their families, all paying their mortgages. We're matching their 401ks. Their kids are growing up with great life experiences. My kids now exist. They're getting great life experiences. The company aircraft we use to rescue dogs, and I have a rescue flight scheduled for tomorrow. You can join me if you like, actually.
Dude.
You want to come?
I'm going to a wedding tomorrow afternoon, so
Okay.
that might blow up this time.
Okay, next time. We're taking a dog from Nampa that's come out of a kill shelter from over in Texas. It's being transported to Nampa, and I'm flying this dog on its last leg to Washington to her forever family. So we use the company aircraft in connection with Pilots and Paws to rescue more dogs.
Dude.
And
wow.
So all these blessings have come about since then, and the underlying lessons of how to structure a company, how to treat your employees, how to treat people. Yeah. And a lot of it comes down to empathy, kindness. You never know what somebody's going through. And your current self is the best prepared person to help your past self.
Right.
And people that are in the same position as your past self.
Right.
So you can take those lessons and you can either wallow in them, or you can turn around and you can use it for good and to help others.
Dude, that is, this has been an incredibly powerful time. It's just dawning on me how you're the kind of guy that I'm just so bummed I don't have like 3 hours set aside to talk to. So there will be a round 2, and it will be longer. I promise you that. Let's do this as we're kind of getting closer to landing the plane, maybe. When we first got to know each other, you're building the company, and next thing you know, you're telling me, hey, we just signed up with this network group, Pacific Interstate Brokers. Talk to me about that. For agents watching that maybe haven't joined a group like that, like what would you recommend to them, and why has that been a good move for True Summit?
It's been a great move for True Summit. We've all, at a lot of smaller companies, we go into things, self-employed people have a tendency to think it's all because of me, and if it's not because of me, or if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. And so we're very self-sufficient and independent-minded people, and that causes us to really live in a bubble and isolate ourselves. And I found that the more people you can reach out to, the more resources you have, other professionals that you can bounce things off of, the quicker your learning curve, because you can avoid some pitfalls and other mistakes. And a company like Pacific Interstate Insurance Brokers gives you a community and network of other agency owners, as well as the carrier representatives, and already established relationships and trust with those carrier reps and with those agencies. So just for being a part of a collective like that, and being accepted into it, there's that foundational trust that's in there to help you elevate your career, get those carrier contracts and appointments if they're available, or if you want them. And there's a number of agency owners that I reach out to and just bounce ideas off of.
Yeah.
And they're very open with it because ultimately we're not in competition. There's more than enough business to go around.
Right.
And everybody is really happy to share their ideas, what their experiences have been, and what the letdowns have been, or what they would have done differently in different scenarios, depending on what that is. I mean, from something as basic as using a CRM to something as complicated as an acquisition.
Right.
So we're learning exponentially faster by being a part of that community. The back end side of it is the profit sharing side too. Having done it on my own and been independent and separate from a collective, there were years that we made profit sharing, there were years that we didn't. And it was, all right, here's a check from Safeco, and another year like, oh, we didn't make it because we're off by 1 point in our loss ratio. Being with PIB levels that out. You get more or less a consistent profit sharing that you can count on, that you can budget for, and that you can fold back into the company. And again, if when you look at it, wherever that number is, whatever percentage that makes up of your revenue, if you can consistently count on that year after year, it's more that you can leverage back to the company to continue that growth. So we've only been a part of PIB for 3 years, but I wouldn't look back. I wouldn't go the other way again.
Well, you and I both have mutual friends that are part of PIB who are guys that we'll know hopefully for the rest of our careers. I have a funny story though about Tiffany.
Oh yeah.
Who runs PIB. She's great, right?
She's fantastic.
She's great. So I talked to her one time, and I was actually at my in-laws' house, and I have really bad allergies. So this is embarrassing, but you know how you never talked to someone on the phone before, and you want to make a good impression.
Yeah.
And so it's awful, but it's funny. Like, so when I blow my nose, I just put the phone on mute, blow my nose real quickly, hop back off. Mm-hmm. Well, I set the phone down and somehow I didn't put it on mute and I blew my nose really loud. And then I hear Tiffany on the line going, hello? Like she thought like I died or something, right? Like she's like, what is going on? And I realized I hadn't hit mute. And so I'll always remember that because it was such an absurd thing. I don't think I've ever done that with anybody else, but she was a really good sport. And I know I got to learn a lot from her. She has a lot of industry experience and has done a good job with the team. So one thing that I really appreciate about PIB, being such an animal lover myself, is they are a dog company. They bring their dogs to the office. Really?
Their dogs are part of that family. If you go visit their office, they have pictures of all the PIB dogs on the wall, those that are still with us and those that are not. And so that's just part of their culture. And it's awesome because they allow their employees to bring the dogs into the office. And the office is perfectly set up for it. And so that was a really good mashing of culture between True Summit and PIB in that way, because we rescue dogs. They know a lot of rescue organizations and fosters. And so we've also networked and linked up with a lot of them as a part of what we do, and work with them in transporting dogs as well.
This is a match made in dog heaven.
It was, and so we get along very well on that side of it. But they're just a good company. They're a family-based company. And you really get that small company vibe and that family feel with them as well. They treat all of their agency partners as family members. And they give them that individual attention. I can call Tiffany, the president of the organization, directly, and she picks up the phone. So nobody's just a number, which is the same way we try to treat our clients in this industry. Right. You know how important it is with the people you work with, your employees, your clients, that you give them that individual attention and time.
Right, right.
Because at the end of the day, people want human connection.
Right.
Whether you're an insurance professional and you're trying to run a business and you're working with a carrier rep, or you're the client seeking an auto policy, or an employee just trying to get their boss's attention and favor. Everybody wants that human connection in that time. And that's the number one thing that I love most about this industry is the relationships.
Amen. Well, Grant, I am bummed that we have to wrap this up right now because you have done a good job humanizing this industry by telling your story. I don't think people know your story without hearing something like this. Maybe some, but it's a platform in which you can share it with a wide audience because I think it's inspiring and it's very cool. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. And if I could just close in saying, one of the most common questions that I get, because people see success and they see where you are presently, and oftentimes they don't know where somebody's coming from, or they don't know what somebody's currently going through. And a question I get from a lot of young men and women who are trying to start their businesses, and they see where I am presently, they say, were you born with money? I've even had some people say, oh, your parents must have been rich. They see the airplane, they see the success. And what a lot of them are really saying is, please tell me there's a path for me to accomplish the same thing. Please tell me this wasn't just given to you, because they don't have what they see as the opportunity, the advantage, or the means to create the same thing. And so what I want people to know is, obviously, my story. No, I started lower than floor level.
Baby.
I was rock bottom. I was down there. I started $1.2 million in debt with a bankruptcy. You don't need to be born with a silver spoon in your mouth to be successful. Be resourceful, be patient, learn from others, be open-minded, and more than anything, be kind, and master the art of relationship building. Because the key to success is your ability to work well with others and your ability to learn from your own mistakes. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's those mistakes that are ultimately going to be your diploma. So fail forward and you can be successful too.
Boom. Grant, good word, baby. Thank you.